began this series, The Rising Cases of Sexual Abuse, 2 weeks ago, and highlighted the reality of rising instances of sexual offenses as seen in the cases that are going on in our courts presently. We also showed that so many men are not aware that what now constitutes sexual offenses is expansive. Specifically, we examined the laws of Lagos State and noted the wide ambit of what constitutes, for example, sexual assault by penetration. And even more noteworthy is a spectrum of punishments. In today's effort, we shall focus on sexual offenses against children and minors. Sometime last year, I was briefed by a family to appear as counsel for their brother who was about to be sentenced by a high court under a plea bargain agreement in Lagos State. The offender was charged with defiling a minor. He agreed to plead guilty to the offense in exchange for a lower punishment. He was charged with the offense under Section 137 and Section 261 of the Criminal Laws of Lagos State 2015. That offense carries a life jail term. Section 137 provides thus: any person who commits sexual intercourse with a child commits a felony and is liable on conviction to life imprisonment. Because the offender opted to plead guilty, the state offered to give him 14 years imprisonment. I conveyed the news to the offender and advised him to take it. As is often the case, the offender recited to me how his friends in custody had applied for review and received 10 years, not 14. Despite my counsel, he insisted. We applied for review. When the reply came, the offender was now offered 21 years imprisonment. A review is a delicate thing because the entire circumstances of the case will come under increased scrutiny. So, after the scrutiny, in this case, it was realized that the victim of the offense was a minor below 4 years at the time of the offense. The offender was almost 50 years of age. The fact of the victim's age was an aggravating factor, and so the hammer fell. The state could not reverse to the earlier position of 14 years. And that was how the offender was sentenced to 21 years in correctional custody. This is one out of thousands of child predators who are being daily tried in our courts and sentenced to long jail terms. The incidence of child sexual abuse and molestation has assumed the dimension of a scourge, an epidemic in our society. How can one imagine a 50-year-old man struggling to penetrate a 2-year-old child? Horrible, you will say. Yes, it is more than horrible. It is abominable. But that is the way the cookie crumbles. Sections 135 to 139 of the Lagos State laws make provisions for sexual offenses against a child. When you add this to Section 261, which defines sexual assault by penetration, you will now understand why many men who only sexually played with children in the room, even without having sex, are today languishing in jail. Section 261 provides thus, quote, any person who penetrates sexually the anus, vagina, mouth, or any other opening in the body of another person with a part of his body or anything else without the consent of the person commits a felony and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for life. End of quote. On October 21, 2025, the Nigerian House of Senate passed the Criminal Code Amendment Bill that strengthened child protection provisions in the law. The amendment makes the defilement of a minor an offense punishable with death without the option of fine. The bill also provides that the perpetrators could be both men and women. Additionally, The limitation bar against prosecution was removed. This amendment of the foremost federal legislation on crime cannot be timelier. The fight against child predators is something that must be fought by everyone. Another key legislation in this context is the Child Rights Act. This piece of legislation focuses on the child and his rights. In states, it is called the Child Rights Law. Yet many states of the Federation have not domesticated this act in their states. In most states where the act has been domesticated, nothing is on ground to protect children. Beyond the laws and this commendable amendment by the Senate, the government must step up key structures to give the law some measure of bite. It is not a secret that our laws fail due to the absence of enforcement. If this and other laws must succeed in the context of protecting the child from sexual abuse and other vices, then the government must forge a robust partnership with key players in this sector. And who are they? Religious groups, NGOs, law enforcement, communities, and many more. A nation's development is measured by how well its children are cared for, being the most vulnerable part of the society. Stay with us as we conclude this series next week. Kindly visit our socials at Zarephath Aid. Follow us, like, comment, and share. I am Ben Abraham, and this remains Criminal Justice Focus. Thank you.